America is entering a moment unlike anything we've seen in decades, a moment where the assumptions that carried us through the last era may no longer apply. When I look at 2025-26, I don't see a simple economic cycle. I see a massive structural shift forming under the surface. And the most surprising part is this: most Americans are not prepared for what's coming, not because the future is bleak, but because the speed of change is about to accelerate far beyond the comfort level of traditional thinking. Across the economy, we're witnessing fractures and breakthroughs happening side by side. Consumer behavior is shifting as households navigate uncertainty. Businesses are rethinking their investment strategies, hesitant in some areas yet doubling down in others, particularly in technologies that can drive exponential productivity. This tension between anxiety and innovation is exactly what precedes a major transformative period. Historically, economies don't break, they pivot, and those pivots usually look like chaos before they reveal themselves as inflection points. Inflation, interest rates, employment pressure, these are real, immediate concerns. But they are not the story, they are the noise around the signal. The deeper narrative is the reallocation of capital, the restructuring of industries, and the emergence of entirely new economic engines. When traditional analysts say growth might slow or volatility might rise, I see something different. I see the clearing of old models that were already unsustainable. I see the world making room for new frameworks driven by innovation, not inertia. By 2025-26, Americans will face shocks not because the nation is collapsing, but because our systems will be forced to evolve faster than expected. Technologies once considered futuristic, automation, AI-driven decision-making, robotics, decentralized computing, will no longer be optional. They will be the foundation of competitiveness, and companies refusing to adapt will feel the consequences sharply. At the same time, industries that embrace these tools may see productivity leaps comparable to the early internet era. This kind of shift doesn't just change businesses. It changes labor markets, education, supply chains, and the very definition of economic value. And as with any transformation, there will be discomfort. Jobs will be restructured, not eliminated. Productivity will surge, but unevenly. Some sectors will struggle to adjust, while others will expand at a pace that seems unrealistic, until it becomes obvious in hindsight. America is on the edge of this transition, but the public conversation hasn't caught up. We're still debating last decade's problems, while the next decade is already unfolding. Global forces add another layer. Economic slowdowns overseas, shifting trade balances, geopolitical realignments. These pressures will test America's resilience, but they will also create openings for leadership. Historically, when the global system becomes unpredictable, the countries that innovate fastest don't just survive. They define the next era of prosperity. The question is not whether America can lead. The question is whether America will prepare itself to lead. Individuals, investors, and businesses must look beyond the headlines. The shock coming in 2025-26 isn't a collapse. It's a recalibration. It's the world telling us that the old playbooks are done, and the new ones are being written in real time. This transition will reward vision over fear, adaptability over rigidity, and curiosity over comfort. Those who cling to legacy thinking may find the coming years overwhelming. But those who embrace data, technology, and long-term innovation could find themselves positioned for extraordinary opportunities. America is not ready yet, but readiness is a choice, not a condition. The shock wave coming is not meant to break us, it is meant to wake us. The future is demanding boldness, and those who rise to meet it will shape what the next chapter of American prosperity looks like. 2025-26 is shaping up to be one of the most defining periods in modern American history, not because of collapse or catastrophe, but because the systems we've relied on for decades are entering a phase of rapid transformation. When we talk about change, most people imagine something gradual, something predictable. but the disruptions approaching America won't unfold slowly. They will come in waves, driven by technology, economics, global tensions, and structural resets that have been building quietly beneath the surface. And while many will be caught off guard, those who understand the direction of innovation will see exactly why this moment is so pivotal. Across the economy, traditional indicators still dominate the headlines: inflation cooling in some sectors, tightening in others, interest rates shaping consumer and corporate behavior, and labor markets shifting as industries face both shortages and automation pressures. But these indicators alone don't capture the magnitude of what's coming. What is happening now is the collision of several forces at once, forces that don't move linearly but compound exponentially. Technology is at the center of this shift. Artificial intelligence is no longer an experiment or a buzzword. It is becoming the backbone of decision making, productivity, and competitive advantage. Companies that once relied on legacy infrastructure are confronting a new reality: either integrate these technologies or fall behind irreversibly. In previous eras, innovation happened in silos: computing, internet, mobile. Today, innovations are converging: AI, robotics, energy storage, genomics, autonomous systems. They are reinforcing one another, creating the kind of exponential curve that reshapes entire economies. This convergence is not decades away. It is happening right now, and it will accelerate dramatically through 2025 and 2026. For the average American, this will feel disorienting. Entire categories of work will shift in scope, not vanish, but evolve into roles built around overseeing intelligent systems rather than performing repetitive tasks. Productivity gains could be staggering, but they will come with friction. Retraining will be essential. Companies will reorganize. Communities will adapt or risk being left behind. This is not a warning. It's a recognition of the speed at which innovation is moving and the necessity of readiness at every level of society. Economically, the nation is walking a tightrope. Global growth is uneven. Some of America's largest trade partners are slowing, creating ripple effects across supply chains. Energy markets are volatile. Geopolitical tensions add pressure. These challenges can create short-term uncertainty, even shock. But historically, the United States has transformed uncertainty into opportunity faster than most countries, provided it embraces innovation instead of resisting it. And that is the real question for 2025-26. Will America lean into the future or cling to the systems of the past? We are entering a period where the winners will be defined by adaptability. Investors who understand long-term innovation instead of short-term noise will navigate the volatility ahead more clearly. Businesses that harness automation and data-driven intelligence will outperform those afraid of change. Communities that prepare their workforce for an AI-accelerated world will thrive far beyond those hoping old industries return. The shock coming is not the shock of collapse, it is the shock of acceleration. Every major economic transition in history looked disruptive when it arrived. The Industrial Revolution displaced old labor models before it created new ones. The Internet Revolution dismantled entire industries before giving rise to the digital economy. Now, the exponential innovation era will challenge our assumptions before reshaping our potential. Americans must understand that preparation isn't about fear, it's about positioning. It's about recognizing that the world is evolving faster than traditional institutions can adapt, and taking responsibility for staying ahead of that curve. The next 2 years will reward bold thinking, informed decision making, and long-term vision. Those who prepare now will not merely survive the shift, they will rise with it. 2025-26 will change everything for Americans. The question isn't whether the transformation is coming, it is whether we are ready to embrace it. 2025-26 is not shaping up to be a normal year for America, it's shaping up to be a turning point. Underneath the surface of economic forecasts and media headlines, a convergence of forces is quietly building: a confluence of global slowdown, shifting trade dynamics, and technological disruption that could rewrite the rules of prosperity. According to the latest update from a major global economic institution, developed economies, including the U.S., are facing significantly weaker growth prospects, with output expected to slip from pre-pandemic norms. IMF plus two, that doesn't mean collapse. What it means is transformation. On one side, global growth is forecast to decelerate. Global real GDP might hover around 3.0% in 2025 and roughly 3.1% in 2026, modest, but far from spectacular. IMF plus two, the news market plus two. Meanwhile, for advanced economies, headwinds are mounting. Trade tensions, elevated uncertainty, tighter financial conditions, and weaker consumer demand all contribute to a subdued outlook. EY plus two, IMF plus two for Americans. That means the old playbook where gradual growth, predictable jobs, steady returns may no longer apply. Traditional industries, supply chain models, and standard investment strategies are at risk of being outpaced by global structural shifts. But at the same time, we stand at the threshold of something else, the emergence of new growth engines powered by innovation, technology, and adaptability. One of the most consequential drivers in this shift is the rise of new technologies, especially those that dramatically increase productivity and decentralize value creation. Where once growth came from incremental improvements in manufacturing or services, now it comes from leaps, automation, data-driven decision making, and technologies that reshape work, production, and consumption. World Economic Forum +1. This doesn't mean every American will feel prosperity immediately. Disruption can be uneven. Some sectors may shrink or transform. Jobs may evolve. The middle ground, those who rely on stability and old assumptions, may feel pressure. But disruption also creates opportunity for those willing to adapt, to reskill, to embrace change. Think of it this way: the foundation beneath America's economy is shifting. Global trade links are reconfiguring under tariffs and uncertain geopolitics. Consumer habits are evolving. Capital allocation, long oriented toward conventional sectors, may pivot toward frontier technologies. All of these changes are happening in parallel, making 2025-26 not just another economic cycle, but a structural inflection point. This massive shift isn't a distant what if. It's unfolding now. It calls for clarity, awareness, and readiness. For business leaders, it means rethinking what sustainable growth really looks like. For workers, it means being open to learning, evolving, staying flexible. For anyone invested in the future, it means recognizing that the next wave of opportunity may not resemble what we've known. So yes, a significant transformation is coming to America. The truth about 2025-26 is that it may shake up old assumptions, challenge comfort zones, and demand bold thinking. But for those who recognize the direction of change, who anticipate and adapt, what lies ahead won't just be disruption. It will be the start of a new era. 2025-26 is coming in as more than just another economic cycle. It looks like the kind of shakeup that redefines what opportunity, security, and success mean in America. The numbers are telling us that the foundation is shifting. Global growth is slowing, trade tensions are rising, and inflation and policy uncertainty are forcing people to question old certainties. Morgan Stanley +2, OECD +2. When we look at forecasts from respected institutions, some concerning patterns emerge. Growth for the U.S. is likely to decelerate after years of above-average rates. Projections suggest growth could slip substantially through 2025 and 2026. EY +2, Deloitte +2. At the same time, rising trade barriers and volatile global demand are beginning to push up costs for consumers and businesses. That adds stress to an economic system already navigating the tailwinds of pandemic recovery. Morgan Stanley +2 KPMG +2, but this historic shake-up isn't only about headwinds, it's about structural transformation. Labor markets, supply chains, capital flows, they all stand on the brink of reconfiguration. Traditional sectors may feel pressure. Manufacturing, retail, and some service industries could see slower growth, cost pressures, or increasing competition. Employment may shift. Wages may be pressured by cost of living and inflation dynamics, and households could face tougher choices. At the same time, forces of innovation, especially around new technologies, are gathering strength. Investment in areas like AI, automation, and digital infrastructure could reshape productivity, business models, and entire industries. Some forecasts believe that if this wave hits just right, we might see a rebound, not to the old normal, but to a new paradigm where America's competitive edge gains a different kind of momentum. Morgan Stanley +2, Oxford Economics +2 for individuals and businesses. The next 2 years may feel disorienting. Inflation and price pressures might squeeze budgets. Some jobs will evolve or transform. Others might disappear or become more competitive. But for those who anticipate and adapt, those who understand that what lies ahead isn't simply volatility, but transformation, there's a chance to get ahead, to invest differently, to upskill, to build strategies grounded in the future rather than the past. Uncertainty will be high. Policymakers may wrestle with balancing inflation, growth, and debt. Trade negotiations and global tensions could add sudden shocks, but crisis and opportunity often walk hand in hand. Moments when systems crack are also the moments when innovation, reinvention, and rediscovery become possible. This is not a plea to panic. It's a wake-up call. 2025-26 will demand clarity, courage, and a willingness to rethink long-held assumptions. The shakeup looming for America could be the genesis of something new, a reinvention of economic fundamentals, social structures, and the meaning of growth in an era defined by rapid innovation and global flux.